Christophe Clugston here for Clugston Combat Systems. I'm here with my training knife. It's not the greatest knife, just a training knife. But I'm not here to really talk about our knife fighting, hybrid knife fighting. I'm here to talk about something that is pretty cool, and that's a movie review of the fighting scenes in John Wick 2. Now, John Wick 2 is very different than other movies that we see, like the Bourne trilogy, basically because the Jason Bourne trilogy is choreographed and the fight scenes by Filipino martial artist Jim Imada from Dana Santo, and you're seeing the La Costa system, because a lot of people might say, which Filipino martial arts are they? That's basically the La Costa system you're seeing in the Bourne trilogy. And of course, you look at the Batman movies and you're seeing KC or KFM, which has now become Defense Lab. They've split, but you see Jack Reacher and Taken with Liam Neeson. That is looking at first KC and then now Defense Lab. So you see unique, and Batman, like I said, you see unique styles there of fighting, but we haven't seen anything like what you see in John Wick, and it's pretty cool because what's happened is it's a lot like what we do in combat judo. In fact, it has a lot of elements of combat judo in it. It's been upgraded in ways because it's based around having the pistol, having the gun. So everything he does is to get the gun. Now, he doesn't win every physical encounter in the movie. For example, there's a Russian sambo guy that's too big for him. He ends up shooting him. Two sambo guys, actually. And then there's a Japanese sumo wrestler that he ends up having to shoot several times, also because he can't use the combat judo against him. In the very first scene of the movie, you see him doing movements to get the guy off balance so that he can do a throw. A lot of the throws you see, I don't remember the Japanese name for it, but it's actually the lower fireman's carry from wrestling, and he likes to do the Ippon Senagi, but he likes to do it against the joint, which is that way, which is breaks the arm, which is the way it was originally intended to be done, the way John Saylor likes to do it. There are some moves. He uses a Sotogari, sort of, and Tayatoshi, I think I saw in there, but he likes to use it so that he can get the gun free from the other guy or get his gun deployed, because everything he's doing is based on the gun. The guys who designed the fight sequences basically call it gun fu, which is kind of a cool name for it. But we're seeing something we haven't seen anywhere else, and that's what makes it interesting. Actually, talking about John Wick 2, the fights are huge. There's lots of fights. There's a couple car action things, and also Aquino did some of the 90s and the 180s and stuff. Of course, it was on green screen so they could fill it in. He wasn't doing it like the old days in the 70s on the actual streets with things around him all the time. But he trained a lot for this scene. Basically, if you know anything about Reeves, he's a guy who likes, because he was in The Matrix, he likes Hong Kong type of fight scenes. He's got a personal kung fu trainer, a teacher that he likes to work with. But for this movie, he threw all that sort of, ridiculous stuff out and went to a more functional system that's based around the gun, the pistol. And he does a good job with it. He went through extensive training. Now, as a guy who knows a little bit about different military usage of guns, he's kind of doing a tier 1 US style. The Russian style is very different. I won't go into that. Of course, other people have different methods. And what you're going to see, though, in that is that a rude guy going by talking too loudly on his phone. But the thing is, the factor is that what you're seeing is some people say it's just speed shooting. Well, tier 1 guys that are doing basically hostage rescue use that sort of method, and they use the sling like that to throw the gun, to throw the rifle down, the weapon down, and he's using a Benelli shotgun. That's one of the big things that like to use in the U.S. Special Forces community. But he's going to that, and he's going to Glocks actually now for the 9s, which people are shifting to. Russians like to use 9s, but I'm getting sidetracked into the gun part of it. I really want to talk about the hand-to-hand stuff. Now, I will say, speaking of the knives, one of the reasons I brought this out here is to remind me to talk to you about the knife fighting scenes in it. They're not good. They're very, knife fighting scenes are difficult to do. You've seen people doing the Filipino pattern system. That's been going on for a long time, and since Dan Inosanto and guys he's trained like Imada have been involved in a lot of movies, for example Steven Seagal stuff back in the 90s, you've seen some of those fight scenes like that. And then you've seen the Hunted, which was the Sayak Kali guys. All these are Filipino people who were in the United States, by the way. These aren't Filipinos from the Philippines. These are long ago, in the case of Dan Inosanto, these are all Filipinos who had been in the United States prior to World War II. So there's a lot of difference between what you find in what is the Stockton Filipino martial arts community and some of the Hawaiian Filipino martial arts, opposed to what's really going on in the Philippines or what went on in the Philippines. Anyway, I don't want to go too much into that because I want to do another video talking about Dan Inosanto, because he's worthy of a whole video commentary for himself. But I want to talk about, so you've got these fight scenes that people are used to seeing, like the Filipino stuff, like in Bourne, you see this, and it's patterns and it's unrealistic. People are doing these angles. Nobody's going to do that. And real attacks, they don't do that. It's too slow, they're too close, they're too squared up, you're going to be dead already. But what you're seeing is very kind of a primal knife fighting where the guys are also using knives I would not use. If you're actually carrying a knife for tactical use, meaning that you want to kill someone else with the knife, I wouldn't be using any of the knives that I saw in that movie. So a lot of it is him bearing his weight down and getting a stab off on people and them stabbing. There's not a lot of, well, since I know knife fighting well, it's not high level stuff. It's very low. The gun stuff's very high level, so I don't know. Well, I guess they didn't have a knife guy. I'm available for the next John Wick. There's going to be a 3, by the way. It's going to be a John Wick 3. I'm available for the John Wick 3 knife scenes, and I could also interject some stuff for the hand-to-hand things. Although I do like what they're doing with the combat judo, I would emphasize a few other moves that he's not doing, since he's only concerned with lethal fighting. None of it is sport fighting. He's doing all of it to kill the guy. He does a throw to get the gun free to kill the guy. He does a few arm bars here and there, and he does some chokes, things like that. But that's all to kill the guy and get the gun out, because he's going to go to the gun anytime he can. He's not going to beat the guy hand to hand if he can get to the gun. That's the point of it, which means that it's subdominant to the gun, which is where you would go. I remember when they were talking to Tom Cruise in one of his movies, and he was talking about, yes, if you were a modern day samurai, or a modern day, in my case, a knight. Samurai is really a knight for the Japanese, but probably a little bit more subservient. The factor would be, now you would be based on handguns at close range, and you would base everything on guns, and then you would go to the hand-to-hand things. So, of course, if you want to know more about our hand-to-hand and our military and our lethal stuff, you can go to fluentfighting.com. But I wanted to give you that little update on John Wick. Go see the movie. Do I think the plot is great? No. Do I think the fight scenes are really good? Yes, I do. And it's something different. You're seeing what is combat judo. Combat judo upgraded to be around the pistol. Now, we do combat judo seminars, but we don't incorporate the pistol like that. It's very difficult to do for civilians. Anyway, so there's my review on John Wick. I give it out of 10. I'm going to give it a 10 on the fight scenes. On the plot, I'm going to give it a 5. Okay, so go see it to look at the fight scenes. All right, that's the reason. Stay tuned. This is Christophe Clugston for Clugston Combat Systems. I'll be back with you. Remember, fluentfighting.com. See ya.